Welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. I'm Dr. Ben, happy to be with you, and here again for another episode to support you in connecting with your self-healing potential through the power of whole food, plant-based nutrition, as well as mind-body medicine. So just started the podcast, didn't have any sound. Hopefully we are good to go now. Just had to press a button on my microphone here that I didn't know I had to press because I've done this, I don't know how many times, I guess 358 times. But technical things happen. So anyways, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever else is going on in your world, in your life. Happy end of 2022. Cheers to a awesome year ahead in just another 10 days or so, I guess. We start 2023. And I was just saying, as we're wrapping up this year, I'm starting to think more about what this podcast journey is like, what the next rendition of this podcast journey is. Of course, if you've been with us, you've been through many Medicinal Monday episodes and you've heard our rants on Wisdom Wednesday episodes. And you know that for the time being, it is just me, Dr. Ben, on the podcast. I lost my co-host, mom, Dr. Susanna. She is mothering in full mode. And obviously it's always hard, now it's hard to be together because one of us is doing stuff, and I've just taken that for granted. So life is more full, but in such a great way, of course. And that being said, moving into 2023, my visions and hopes and intentions are, of course, to continue everything in terms of a weekly podcast episode. And also, I would love to stay open to also collaborations and conversations with guests on the podcast. So if there are anyone in your world, if there is anyone in your world that you see as an expert in some field or has something to share, you can connect them with me, or connect me with them. And I'd love to kind of just take this podcast back into the realm of interviews, maybe, both in a way to kind of expand my understanding and perspective and knowledge, and also so that we can kind of share that greater perspective with the world, right? Because I like to think that the synergy of collaboration gives, like, 1 + 1 = 3. We can kind of bring our heads together and kind of experience new insights and share that with the world. That's my hope. Which leads us to this week's episode, number 358. Wow. We are talking about the 11 reasons why I, myself, Dr. Ben, am whole food plant-based. Of course, this is kind of piggybacking on the last episode where number 357, I think it caught your attention. The title of that one was Why I'm No Longer Vegan, which of course I'm not vegan. And I explained in that, like, why I haven't identified with veganism really ever, for that matter. And really, what I feel is the important thing to really stay focused on when our goal is health, when our goal is when our goal is health, we need to stay away from the ideology that often is brought with veganism, because veganism isn't just about health. And a lot of vegan advocates really make a point for that to be clear. Veganism is not about you. It's not about health. It's not a personal thing. It's a global thing. It's an animal thing. It's a bigger picture thing, which is great. But that's not my purpose. That's not my purpose here on the podcast, not promoting the ideological stuff. I really want to stay focused on more of the objective, scientific stuff, which is, in this context, of course, whole food plant-based. Because as I discussed last week, there is a difference, a big difference, a growing difference between a vegan diet and a whole food plant-based diet. Just to recap, a vegan diet is really a way of eating that avoids animal products, avoids meat, fish, dairy, and eggs. Also, as I mentioned, a vegan diet generally avoids honey, because eating honey is said to exploit bees. But that being said, I don't want to go back. I don't want to rehash that conversation. But so anyways, just to recap, I quote unquote eat a vegan diet with the exception of honey. I don't eat meat, fish, dairy, and eggs. But a vegan diet doesn't really get into the nitty gritty details with regard to the whole growing realm of processed foods, especially in terms of vegan processed foods, processed vegan foods. So I think it's pretty cool to look at some science and statistics around vegans and health. Pretty cool and also kind of eye opening. There's a class of studies, or I should say, a population that has been studied, and these studies have been called the Adventist health studies. They studied the 7 Day Adventists, a group of people who are, of course, around the world, but there's a high population of Seventh Day Adventists, which is, of course, a kind of a religion denomination in Southern California. And this religion is a vegan or plant-based, or I think vegetarian to vegan religion. So anyways, this Seventh Day Adventist group in Southern California just so happens to be one of the blue zones around the world. And we know that the blue zones are the groups of people that are the healthiest, longest living people on the planet. I forget all of them. Place in Italy, Sardinia, Costa Rica, the Nicoya Peninsula, Okinawa. I won't go down that blue zone rabbit hole, but one of the blue zones happens to be the Seventh Day Adventist group. But that was like, to be honest, that was like 10, 20, 30 years ago. As we move on into the future, as we move on into the present, as time has progressed, with the introduction of so many processed, vegan, packaged junk foods and, alternative meat alternatives, et cetera, and so forth, a lot of the health benefits that are observed in a quote unquote vegan population are no longer observed because of the introduction of so many processed foods. Because going back in history, before I was a vegan, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, eating a vegan diet meant that you were eating a whole food plant-based diet, because the vegan junk food just didn't exist, and junk food in general was like just a smaller thing. But vegans were by force of nature required to eat natural foods. But in 2022, moving into 2023, vegans don't need to eat natural foods. Vegans can eat all sorts of junk foods. So that brings us to, of course, the bigger topic, the bigger focus of whole food plant-based eating. Just to define it real quick. Of course, we're eating whole foods that are plants in their natural and unprocessed form. So these include fruits and vegetables and starchy vegetables and sea vegetables and leafy greens, all the vegetables, right? All the plants, but also our intact whole grains, with the exception, and intact, of course, means that it's not processed, because there are also processed whole grains like whole wheat flour, etc. Legumes, nuts and seeds, and herbs and spices. Whole food plant-based eating is really straightforward, really simple. So essentially, it's not eating animal products and it's not eating processed foods. Of course, we know that processed foods exist on a spectrum that is vast. There's highly processed foods, and then there's kind of the whole processed foods. I think of things like, I don't know, I'm not a big advocate of them, but like Lara bars. It would be better if they were organic. I think maybe there might be some organic Lara bars, but if you look at the back of a Lara bar, it's like, dates and figs and almonds and cherries or something like that. It's essentially whole foods that you could put together and make in your kitchen. You could make that in your kitchen with a food processor. So that, those sorts of processed foods I would classify as like whole food plant-based processed foods. But then there's, breads and pastas. So of course, a whole food plant-based diet does like steers away from the refined grains, even if it's like organic whole wheat flour, steers away from, chickpea pasta. And really, by definition, also steers away from things like tofu, which is processed soybeans. And instead, we focus on intact whole grains, intact whole legumes, like the wheat berries, or like the, whole like chickpeas rather than chickpea pasta, and soybeans rather than tempeh and tofu and soy milk and stuff like that. So of course, everything's on a spectrum. And I think that whenever we talk about this like ideal of whole food plant-based eating, some people get wrapped up into the perfectionism, which, that's not the point. Being having that perfectionistic ideal creates so much stress and tension in the body that is so counterproductive. It's just crazy. So we would just want to let that go right off the bat. And I don't know, I like to think that 90 to 95% of what we eat should be like whole food, plant-based, and like we're not opening up any packages. We're not, like we're just like shopping the produce department and the bulk department, and just keeping it simple in that way. Um, so yeah, I think that the degree to which we adhere to this, of course, depends on your individual health status, like what's going on with your health and what your health goals are. If you're just like wanting to, stay proactive and you're not working to reverse disease, like it's a whole nother conversation. But now on into, I guess I've spent enough time kind of setting the stage, talking about what whole food plant-based eating is and how it's not a way of like, we shouldn't be perfect with it. That's not the point. I want to talk about the 11 reasons why I myself choose to eat this way. And this is in no particular order. I was just kind of brainstorming. And the first two are the big ones. Like everything kind of boils down to the first two. The first one, a really big one, the first reason why I choose to eat whole food plant-based is to eat low on the food chain so I can avoid the accumulation of environmental toxins that have accumulated in the food chain and the environment. So eating low on the food chain is really helpful. And each one of these points I could go on and on about for like an hour each at least, but we're just creating a big picture overview here. So a lot of other past episodes have really delved into the nitty-gritty details around these individual points. But this is just a big picture thing. So eating low on the food chain to avoid excessive accumulation of environmental toxins in our body is a big thing and of growing importance in our world in this day and age. Point number two, increased nutrient density. So it's all about nutrient density, and nutrient density, I mean vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients per calorie. So each bite of food that we eat can be a source of toxicity or a source of nutrient density. So eating whole food plant-based is really like emphasizing the nutrient density. And these nutrients are, of course, required to maintain balance and optimal function in every cell of our body when it comes to our liver, our metabolism, and kidneys, and lungs and brain and blood vessels and heart and so on. So low on the food chain, low toxicity, increased nutrient density. Those are like the two most, if it all boiled down to two things, that would be it. But there's more. Third reason why I choose to eat this way is to enhance my gut health through biodiversity of my microbiome. And really, the only way to enhance gut health and microbiome biodiversity is enhancing the quantity and diversity of fibers that we consume. And fiber, of course, is ubiquitous in all whole plant foods. As opposed to processed foods, back to the processed food versus whole food conversation. Processed grains, low fiber, low nutrient density; intact whole grains, high fiber, high nutrient density. So the higher fiber, diversity of fiber is enhancing gut health, enhancing microbiome biodiversity, which has huge downstream implications with regard to the immune system and inflammatory pathways, and reversing food sensitivities and food intolerances, and in general, creating more resilience in the gut, so that we can digest more, digest better, be more also resilient to the uptake of potential toxins and foreign stuff in our food supply. So that was the third point, gut health. Fourth point, huge as well: healthy and efficient metabolism. Eating whole food plant-based is the way to optimize metabolic health for many reasons. The primary one being that, again, this is a nutrient dense way of eating, but it's also a carbohydrate rich way of eating. that is naturally lower in fat, lower in saturated fat. And a carbohydrate rich way of eating, naturally low in saturated fat, that's the perfect kind of combination of macronutrients to hopefully not get too scientific with it, but it helps to understand this kind of stuff. That is kind of the perfect balance to enhance insulin sensitivity, reverse insulin resistance, and through all measures, enhance our metabolic efficiency, our ability to convert food into energy required for staying alert, staying awake, staying alive, but also healing and regenerating, our cells in our body. So healthy and efficient metabolism is a huge thing. And, a sub point under this is, of course, when we talk about metabolism, most people jump into like weight release, weight optimization. So eating whole food plant-based also is proven to naturally support people in releasing weight and optimizing their weight without any portion control or calorie restriction. I certainly experienced this myself. Obviously, I'm pretty active, but when I'm not active, like I've been kind of less active the last couple months or so, and it's not like I changed the way I'm eating drastically. Maybe I eat a little bit less because my appetite goes down a little bit when I'm less active, but it's like, just, you don't think about that kind of stuff. Like, oh, I better watch this or watch that. We're just more efficient in our metabolic health, but also we have a greater sensitivity and communication going on between our hunger cues and satiety cues. And it's just, put simply, it's hard, if not impossible, to overeat into a point of dis-ease or dysfunction in the body. It's really impossible to do that when eating whole plant foods. So of course, also with regard to metabolic health, energy levels. Yeah, like we have more energy levels when we have an efficient metabolism. So that was point number 4, metabolism. Point number 5, big one as well, healthy blood vessels and circulatory system. Blood vessels are everything, or blood is everything, carrying our oxygen, carrying our nutrients to every cell in our body, and via the blood vessels, right? So an antioxidant rich whole food plant-based diet, of course, like antioxidants are just kind of a subclass of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. Many of them have antioxidant properties, and these antioxidants are a class of nutrients that really are important when it comes to optimizing what's referred to as endothelial function, or just the resilience and happiness of the cells that line our vascular system. And that keeps things moving fluidly, keeps things dilating healthfully and whatnot. And that is so essential. Like, everyone kind of talks about cholesterol. Not everyone. There's kind of a split. There's like, oh, cholesterol is so important. You got to keep your cholesterol this low, and you got to like. And then there's people who are like, oh, I've got a cholesterol at 450, 600, whatever. It doesn't matter, and it does matter. But what matters more than cholesterol numbers in terms of cardiovascular health and being what some people say to be heart attack proof, what matters most is our endothelial function. And that has everything to do with antioxidants in our diet, back to the nutrient density point, which was the first or second one on the list here. Yes. So healthy blood vessels and circulation. The next point, where am I? Is this 6? Optimal liver health. Optimal liver health. This is huge. And this goes back to the first point as well. Eating low on the food chain, decreasing toxin load helps to enhance liver health, of course. But what I'm talking about here with regard to optimal liver health is, again, the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, all of the cofactors that are required to turn on enzymatic pathways involved with detoxification processes in our body. All those cofactors, they're like little helpers for all the enzymes. They're all vitamins and minerals. So what that means is we must get them from our diet. So eating whole food plant-based, how I like to see it is, not only I guess it's kind of a tangent, but I think it's worthwhile to go down that tangent just for 30 seconds here. So with regard to the body, it's kind of like a bucket. So we want to prevent the bucket from overflowing and, expressing symptoms and so forth. So we got to be mindful of what's coming into the bucket, but we also have to be proactive at keeping the bucket flowing out the bottom, because at the bottom of this weird bucket, you've got holes that are excretory organs in the body. So we want things flowing. So eating whole food plant-based helps to mitigate the stuff coming into the bucket while also expediting the efficient release of things out the bottom of the bucket. So that's a really good thing. 7. Yeah, 7. This is related to liver health, but radiant skin, healthy hair. Man, I really feel this to be true for everyone that I know and have observed to eat whole food plant-based. And of course, there are, beyond just my anecdotal experience, there's plenty of science and research to back it up. But eating nutrient-dense whole food plant-based is a great way to optimize the health of our skin. And that has to do with the antioxidants, again, in our fruits and vegetables and our leafy greens and so on and so forth, but also the toxicity. And because there's this liver skin connection, a lot of skin issues and inflammatory issues of the skin and to some degree aging has to do with the fact that toxicity is being expressed through our skin. Our skin is our biggest organ. It's our biggest organ of detoxification, or excretion, I should say. So when we have decreased toxic load, and when things are flowing out through our kidneys and through our bowels, then our skin gets a break. Then our skin gets to heal and regenerate itself. And of course, hair has everything to do with just real mineral rich, nutrient dense. And obviously there's many other factors at play. Stress is a huge element with regard to all this, everything that's going on in your body, but especially skin and hair. But radiant skin and healthy hair, I think, is a huge, awesome little side bonus of eating whole food plant-based, especially, at least for me. Now, moving on, the last 4 here. So the first 7 were kind of physiologic things going on in the body. These are just kind of like practical, social, personal things that I just love about eating whole food plant-based. This is number 8. Simple, clean, easy. Eating whole food plant-based is so simple, so clean, so easy. It's so easy to prepare food. It's so easy to bulk prep stuff. So easy to just store stuff in the fridge and whip up a salad or a Buddha bowl or a baked potato or whatever it is. Like, so quick. It's so simple, clean, and easy to prepare food. And this is also I guess this is kind of part of the same, but I broke it into a different category because for me, it's huge. For me, it's huge. This is point number 9. It is easy to clean up our food and dishes after eating whole food plant-based. Because I forgot to mention this way at the top, when we're avoiding processed foods, we're also avoiding oil. And oil is hugely problematic when it comes to our metabolic health and cardiovascular health, regarding on your individual stuff. But for sure, avoiding oil really makes cleaning up your dishes a breeze. You don't have to use any soap, or hardly any soap at all. So I think I've always been curious to see the degree, the quantity of dish soap utilized by a family versus their cholesterol levels versus their health outcomes, because we use hardly any soap, because maybe it's because I wash the dishes and I wash efficiently. There's never any dirty dishes. And by the way, we don't use the dishwasher either. I just kind of wash the thing, use the scrub brush and put it in. We use the dishwasher. Here's a little hack. We use the dishwasher as a drying rack. And of course, when we have like a dinner party, when we have people over and there's a bunch of dishes, more than just a few of us, we run the dishwasher, but you don't have to. Maybe, I think it saves water and stuff. And it's also just energy and easy. Anyway, cleaning up your dishes is so easy when you eat whole food plant-based, because you're just eating stuff that just isn't gross, isn't contaminated, doesn't need to be saponified or like broken down through soap molecules and whatnot. It just like washes off the plate. Now, 10, number 10, this is where it gets really important and practically important. Eating whole food plant-based is delicious. And the reason why it is delicious is because when we eat this way, we provide our brain and our tongues and our whole body an opportunity to reset. And specifically our tongue, our taste buds on our tongue regenerate every 7 to 10 days. So when we eat whole food plant-based and kind of stick with it for just a week or so, we develop a whole new relationship with taste and satisfaction. And we are like, all of the flavors just come to life. And of course, we get to play with all of the herbs and the spices and all the things that are just naturally delicious. And I don't know about you. I've heard a lot of stories like of people, oh, I kind of caved and I went to Jack in the Box or Dairy Queen and I got this or I got that and I bit into it and I was like, ugh, this is gross. Because we've got this clean, pristine palate that has been nourished, and then we bombard it with toxicity and synthetic ingredients, and it doesn't taste right because it's not. Our bodies were not designed to that. But we don't get there, like, we don't get there overnight. Most people go into that, excessive consumption of hyper palatable, super processed junk food in a slow decline as our taste buds become desensitized. So when we eat whole food plant-based, we resensitize our taste buds really quickly and everything tastes delicious. And we don't have, oh, this is kind of, this could go somewhere on the list. We don't have a food hangover. We have energy from our food. We don't get tired after we eat. What a concept. So that's another good side effect of eating whole food plant-based. And last on the list, number 11, I think this is a significant win when it comes to eating whole food plant-based as well. And some might argue with me, but eating whole food plant-based is cheap. It's inexpensive, because when we're talking about what really adds up on our grocery bill, it's packaged foods, especially like packaged quote unquote health foods. Those are really expensive. I'll have to admit, like when Susanna was pregnant, she was kind of like gravitated towards more quote unquote packaged health foods. And I was like, our grocery bill really saw that. But in general, produce department, bulk department. And also what's cool is that generally speaking, what's in season is on sale. What's in season is less expensive. And so just that encourages us to eat seasonally. Of course, yeah, there's some things that are super healthy that might be not the cheapest. But generally speaking, whole food plant-based eating is less expensive, of course, when compared to a quote unquote healthy paleo sort of diet or healthy omnivore sort of diet, because grass-fed beef and wild-caught fish, last time I checked, that stuff is really expensive if we're eating a serving of that every day. And of course, if we're not eating grass-fed, if we're eating conventional meat and dairy and eggs and fish, then we're really putting ourselves into a precarious state with regard to our accumulation of environmental toxins. So anyway, grocery bill should be smaller when eating whole food plant-based. If it's not, then maybe you're focusing on some of the packaged stuff that you don't need, because potatoes, bulk grains, bulk legumes, like these kind of things, what some people call are peasant foods. They're like for the poor. And it's just kind of ironic on that note, like a lot of the diseases historically have been referred to as diseases of affluence, like metabolic issues and cardiovascular disease. But of course, now these quote unquote diseases of affluence are afflicting poor people as well, because all of these real rich foods are super inexpensive and subsidized and drive through and toxins and So anyways, we need to get back to the basics. We need to shop the bulk section, shop the produce department, keep things really simple. And these are just 11 reasons why I really enjoy eating whole food plant-based, why I like the benefits that I receive both in my life and my health and my body from eating whole food plant-based. And on that note, just a couple of announcements before I sign off for today. The first one is our challenge, which starts in just 10 days. Yeah, it's December 21st. Happy solstice, by the way. I think the solstice is today, tomorrow, shortest day of the year. So the challenge, the whole food plant-based challenge, starts on New Year's Eve, and it's going into the first week of the new year. And we're getting really boots on the ground, practical with implementing this way of eating and living, so that you can experience all the wins and benefits in your body, in your life. So yeah, it is about habit change. It is about creating, habits and patterns that actually serve you, that actually benefit you. So that's what we're going after this, during this challenge, starting on New Year's Eve. The next point is the cleanse, the winter cleanse, which starts just a couple weeks into the new year. October 13th, 2023 is our first pre-cleanse meeting. So you can learn more about that at www.alter.health/cleanse. And also on the website, www.alter.health, there should be a little button to sign up for the challenge if you are not yet registered for that. That will be taking place either in our Facebook group, Plant-Based and Stress-Free on Facebook, or live stream YouTube videos. No need to be on Facebook if you are not a Facebook user, but good opportunity to just receive support and kind of leverage this time, this new year, to create those habits that are really going to serve you moving into 2023 and beyond. Because I don't know about you, but I don't make resolutions every year. I set intentions whenever I feel the need to set an intention. And when I set an intention, I hope for it to be long lasting, indefinitely, forever, not just over the course of the first week of the new year. So that's the goal. That's the intention. That's the purpose of the Whole Food Plant-Based Challenge. And of course, if you want to learn more about really the science and strategy and receive all sorts of professional guidance and support to take your whole food plant-based diet or your nutritional habits to the next level, and also understand how to leverage other aspects of your lifestyle, then the Thrive on Plants program might be for you. You can learn more at www.alter.health/thrive on plants. All right, I guess that's it for now. Thank you for tuning in, and for all of those who have been live. And I look forward to staying with you and connecting with you next time. Peace and love.